Hi guys. So today I want to go over kind of what you're supposed to be doing on your next assignment, which is your first kind of like practice document-based question outline. So let me minimize myself here. So last class we were together and we worked on this women and children document analysis. So our question is, to what extent were the innovations and developments of the Industrial Revolution positive for working class women and children? Remember, so we're trying to think, how did the inventions and, the things that occurred because of those inventions, how did they impact the working class women and children? And was it good? So remember, we did all these documents and we really looked at how each of these documents showed, were the experiences of women and children positive, and what invention was impacting those experiences? So we did this first one together, right? And it was, the invention of the steam engine, right? They had to mine so much more coal than they ever had before, and child labor was used in these mines. And we talked about how it wasn't positive. Okay, so that's what we did last class. So today, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be forming an argument in response to our DBQ, our question. This is, sorry, this is what it looks like. So basically, I just want to go over the directions for this so that you feel confident, as well as an example. So you have an example to help you do this. So we talked a while ago about the different components of an argument, right? You have your introduction, your claim. You got to introduce your evidence, evaluate it, provide your evidence, and analyze. And remember, we use two pieces of evidence. So before we get into this, I want to go over an example, which we will also have available to you. So here's an example DBQ outline, with the question being, should we still be allowed to say that Christopher Columbus discovered America and celebrate him for it? So an introduction, remember, who is Christopher Columbus? What did he do? Where did he do it? When did he do it? Why was he important, right? So that's what you're doing in your intro. This should be in sentences. It doesn't need to be like fully connected into a paragraph, but it should be in complete sentences. Christopher Columbus was an Italian sailor who was a major player in the age of exploration. He was commissioned by the monarchs of Spain to discover new trade routes to Asia, and he ended up actually landing on the islands off the coast of Central America. Today, he is celebrated as the hero who discovered America. So I've answered all those questions and I've told the reader what we're talking about. So when you're writing your introduction, you really need to pretend as though the person reading it isn't in this class. You have to tell them, what was the Industrial Revolution? When did it happen? Why did it happen? Why is it important that we're talking about it? And then you get into your claim. So remember, your claim is the answer to your question. As new evidence emerges, we as a nation should no longer be allowed to say Columbus discovered America, and we should not celebrate him for it because, and we have our reasons, of the terrible crimes he committed against the native people he encountered. So now I do my first piece of evidence, and there's a couple different components when I am using my first piece of evidence. First thing is I need to do my evidence context. You can do this in an outline in bullet pointed form, okay? So my first piece of evidence is a letter. It was written by Columbus to Rafael Sanchez, who was the treasurer of Spain. It was written in 1943, and the purpose is to describe the native people. Now I need to evaluate it. You can also do this in bullet points. But remember, okay, you cannot just say value, primary source. Value, primary source, because it was written by Columbus, so we're getting his view on the situation. That's why it's valuable. Just because it's a primary source doesn't make it inherently valuable. You need to tell me why. Limits. Sanchez was someone who was helping him pay for his trip, so he may be exaggerating things to make his voyage seem more successful. That doesn't mean he's lying, but something we should be careful about when we're using this document. So the next part is you actually include your quote. Columbus states that all the inhabitants could be taken away to Castile or made slaves on the island. Document 1. Now your analysis. Your analysis is where you really explain why your evidence supports your claim. You can bring in outside information. So for example, if you're talking about document 1, for example, from our packet, we know that it's related to coal. So you can talk about the invention of the steam engine. Just because it's not in this document doesn't mean you don't know about it, right? So you can talk about the invention of the steam engine, how it led to more coal mining, and then connect it right to our big question and your claim. So it shows that Columbus had the intent to enslave the entire native population of the island. He had evil motives for slavery, which is not worthy of celebration. It also shows that there are many people already on the island, making it impossible for Columbus to have discovered anything. Now I do my second evidence. So this is the same thing, right? I provide my background information. I give my values and my limits. I have my quote. And then I have my analysis. And then the last thing on your outline is your conclusion, okay? Your conclusion should restate your main point, review the major aspects of your evidence, and then connect to why it is important. If you just restate your claim word for word, that's not a very good piece of evidence, okay, like we went over in the rubric, and I'll show you again. That's not a very good piece of evidence, or that's not a very good conclusion. So, the evidence presented shows a man who took over an island and murdered and enslaved its inhabitants. He stole their land and resources. These traits are not the traits that should be celebrated with a national holiday. So that is the outline, okay? Here's the rubric. I went over this with you last class, but I just wanted to go over it again. Remember, this is kind of like a practice DBQ, meaning the grade that you get on this, like if you just bomb this, you're not going to fail the assignment. The purpose of me using this rubric for this first DBQ is just to give you feedback on where you're at right now so that you know what you need to do to improve when we do our final Industrial Revolution DBQ project, okay? I want you to know the areas like, oh, I know I didn't do well there, so I know that I need to improve, and that's how I'm going to improve, okay? Because I'll be using basically the same rubric for that project at the end of the unit. So you'll be graded on your thesis, right? So the way that you get a 3 is it's kind of like predictable, simple, it's kind of supportable. And then, your claim is clear, thorough, and supportable. You have reasons, you answer the question. Evidence, make sure you include 2 quotes. Source evaluation, so if you attempt to evaluate the sources, then you'll get a 3. If you do and evaluate the sources well, you provide a value and a limit, that makes sense. You get a 4. And then if you thoroughly discuss, like, you're getting into a deeper level, that's how you get a 5. I do want to show you context of sources. That is this part right here. If you do not include that, it could take off 1 to 2 points. So make sure that you do that. Analysis. So if you attempt analysis, but it's not great, you're in the 3 area. And guys, once I get these outlines from you, we're going to look at them. So you'll get examples of like, what does a 3 look like? What does a 4 look like? We'll do that before we do our final Industrial Revolution project. Style isn't as important for this practice one. I might even take it out. I haven't decided yet because, you're not writing a full essay or anything like that. And then your historical content. So historical content, guys, this is where you show me that you understand what was going on during the Industrial Revolution. What was the Industrial Revolution? What were the inventions of the Industrial Revolution? How did it impact people? This is really going to be in your introduction as well as your analysis, okay? So you want to make sure that you're showing me what you know and using the historical content to convince me that your argument is the best argument. The last thing I wanted to show you guys that will be included in this assignment, so this is what you're filling out, obviously, but I also included this for you. I'm not going to go through this all. This is more of like a resource for you to use if you get stuck. But basically what this PowerPoint is it goes through each of the parts of the DBQ paragraph and tells you what it is, gives you a good example, and gives you a poor example. Okay, so then it'll go claim, what is it, good example, poor example. Okay, so this is really meant to help you if you get stuck and you're not sure kind of what aspect should look like, what it should sound like, what should be in it, anything like that, okay? So yeah, this outline will be due on Monday. So you have kind of today and the weekend to work on it. Shouldn't take you too terribly long. And remember, it's just a practice to kind of, you want to do your best on it so that I'm not giving you like inaccurate feedback. But I want you to have that feedback so that you can use it on our final DBQ project at the end of this unit. So have a great Friday, have a good weekend, and let me know if you have any questions. Bye, guys.